Today's show is sponsored by the Electric Vehicle Association. Join up to support the electrification of transport and get the help you need to finance your own EV or clean energy future. And by EnergySage. Visit the link in the description to find local verified solar experts, community projects and heat pump specialists in your area. And by Atmos Financial. Bank better with a financial technology company that's powered by a portfolio of clean energy investments. Welcome back to another episode of TEN, Transport Evolved News. Thanks for joining me. If I look a little extra tired today, it's because we have been super busy filming a lot of content this week, including a trip to LA on Tuesday and Wednesday. In addition to getting sunburnt cycling a review e-bike, I think both Em and I have worked close on 50 hours this week at the time of filming, and I have another day of work to go, so please be gentle. We start today's show with some sad but expected news. Fisker's Austrian subsidiary, Fisker Austria, has filed for insolvency in self-administration. At the time of filming, midway through Thursday afternoon, Fisker-owned subsidiaries in other countries are not affected, but there's certainly talk of sale of the company assets. We also heard this week that the temporary cessation of production for the Fisker Ocean at Fisker's contract manufacturing partner Magnus Steyr has become permanent, with the latter confirming it will not make any more Fisker Oceans and simultaneously announcing the layoff of everyone involved in producing the car, around 500 people. We also heard about a Fisker Ocean owner in the US this week whose car was totaled after it sustained a minor door ding that resulted in hinge damage. The reason was the insurance company couldn't get replacement parts. Ford Europe made some strong promises not so long ago about making its vehicle lineup all-electric by 2030, but now that could come with some caveats and the potential for continued ICE vehicle manufacturing. That's according to Automotive News Europe, which suggests Ford may be hedging its bets with its future plans. Talking to the publication, Martin Sander, Ford Europe's head of passenger cars, has said that Ford is still hopeful it can keep its previous commitments for going EV in Europe by 2030. At the same time, however, Ford has experienced a lower demand than it had hoped for EVs and, as a consequence, could keep ICE engines alive in the form of plug-in hybrids beyond 2030, quote, if there's strong demand, end quote. Ford seems eager to lay the future of ICE at the feet of the consumer, but what do you think? The US Department of Justice is allegedly starting a new fraud investigation into Tesla's Autopilot, AutoSteer, and full self-driving technology and the claims made of them. According to reporting from Reuters, Tesla is being investigated to determine if it committed securities or wire fraud by misleading its investors and customers about the true capabilities of each of those systems, with particular focus on some of the statements Tesla CEO Elon Musk has made in the past that could have been interpreted as suggesting Tesla vehicles are capable of driving themselves. While Tesla has not officially made a statement on the matter and the SEC does not comment on ongoing investigations, Tesla did note last October that the US Justice Department had asked for information pertaining to Autopilot and, as it was called at the time, Autopilot full self-driving. While EV sales might not be accelerating at a rate that many of us in the EV world would like, the impact electric vehicles is having on the petroleum industry is making itself felt. This week, consultancy firm Wood Mackenzie published its latest outlook into the oil industry and noted that while global oil demand is set to rise again for this year, a bit of bad news for those of us who want to stop burning stuff, the rate of growth in demand demand for oil is at the lowest it's been since 2020, when, of course, demand slowed due to COVID. This time, however, that drop in demand is due to the impact that growing EV sales is having on the fossil fuel industry. Since the US has already supposedly surpassed peak transportation fuel demand and China is nearing it, we should see a drop in oil demand very shortly. This gives some much-needed context behind the seeming explosion in anti-EV FUD. Tesla released a new video this week on X that showcases its latest Optimus prototype robot, moving battery cells from one place to another. The video shows the prototype carrying out various duties at a Tesla facility and also shows people training the robots using VR, supposedly with a view to developing its end-to-end neural nets. But given that Tesla CEO Elon Musk has promised that Tesla will be using Optimus robots at some of its facilities by the end of this year, there's been some significant pushback from some corners of the internet, questioning if Tesla will achieve its stated goals in the time frame promised. I am not a robotics expert, so I'm not going to weigh in on the training regime, but it's worth noting that even slow robots are cheaper than salaries, something Tesla is likely to lean into as it continues its layoffs. California EV startup Aptera has made a bit of a name for itself as eschewing norms in the automotive industry, and its two-seat solar EV is unlike anything out there. But it's also no secret that Aptera has been facing a bit of an uphill battle to raise the funds it needs to bring said vehicle to market at scale volume. And while it now has its first production intent body at its facilities in Carlsbad, California, it's still looking for innovative ways to raise funds. This week, it announced something we'd never seen from an automotive startup before, a so-called self-directed IRA. For those who don't know, IRA is short for Individual Retirement Account, and in the case of Aptera, it basically wants you to invest in a self-directed IRA that ties your investment to its future. There are some pretty strict rules about self-directed IRAs, and while Aptera does have a dedicated page explaining its process, I feel duty-bound to note that you should never, ever make any kind of financial investments without first consulting with a professional financial advisor, which I am clearly not. The latest trends report from US used car specialist Carvana shows that there's a noticeable change in the price of used EVs, bringing them closer than ever before to internal combustion engine vehicle prices. In its latest Q1 EV trends report, it shows two interesting things happened to used EV prices at the start of this year. First, there was a marked rise in used EV sales, up 138% year over year compared to Q1 last year, accounting for 4.3% of all used car sales through the company. At the same time, the average sale price of a used EV fell by 16% to $31,000, while the difference in price between the average price of used EVs versus used ICE vehicles fell by $6,000. The too long didn't read is that used EVs are becoming a far better value for money proposition. Talking of affordable, Elii Electric Vehicles announced on Tuesday this week that the order books are now open in the US for its Elii Zero EV. While the Elii Zero went on sale back in 2021 in some European markets, offering a 100-kilometre, 60-mile range and a top speed of 45 kilometres per hour, that's 25 miles per hour, it's taken a while for the company to carry out preparations for a US market launch. But that wait has brought along some good news. Specifically, there's now a larger 12 kilowatt-hour optional battery pack to give a range of up to 90 miles, 145 kilometres per charge, albeit at the same top speed, to ensure it classifies as a neighbourhood electric vehicle under US law. At just under $12,000 brand new, however, it's going to be a tough sell given its specs. Tesla continued more layoffs this week, with more staff told via email over last weekend that they were no longer going to be employed by the firm. At the same time, Tesla CEO Elon Musk appears to be isolating himself at the head of the company, with Tom Zhu, who had been working since last April as Senior Vice President of Automotive at Tesla, now returning to his formal position as Senior Vice President for Tesla China. In the very same week, Tesla sent an email to suppliers which seemed to imply that it might not be paying its bills particularly quickly, and adding, quote, "This period of change may be challenging and that patience is not easy when expecting to be paid," end quote. But off the back of Tesla cancelling internship invites for this summer, GM has leapt in, suggesting those who are no longer spending their summer at Tesla consider interning for GM instead. And finally for the segment, eVTOL specialist Lilium has confirmed this week that it's received an order for 20 of its jet eVTOL craft for a customer in Florida. The order, which Lilium is calling a firm order, is from Florida-based startup Urban Link, which aims to become the first eVTOL aircraft operator in the US. It plans to use the Lilium Jet to offer eVTOL service to a range of customers in a 100-mile, 160-kilometre radius of Miami, with primary routes between Miami, West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale and Marco Island. While Lilium has received development certification from the European Aviation Safety Agency, it's still a long way from gaining all of the necessary permits to allow the Lilium Jet to be used as an eVTOL taxi in the US. Despite this, Urban Link says it hopes to have its service operational by the end of 2026. Our short shorts are coming in a second, but first a word from longtime sponsor of the channel, EnergySage. EnergySage helps homeowners connect with local, verified solar installers across the US and now heat pump specialists in select markets who really know their stuff and can help you navigate the process of installing solar panels, help you join a community solar program, or get a heat pump installed. I used EnergySage when we were looking for installers willing to help us put solar panels on the roof of our home, and our EnergySage verified installers were professional, knowledgeable, and even put us in touch with an amazing credit union that allowed us to finance our solar panels for as low a monthly payment as possible. Follow the link below to sign up for either of EnergySage's free, no-obligation services and get the ball rolling today. If you choose to use an EnergySage installer for your project, we will also get a small referral fee, so you'll be helping out the channel too. And as someone whose utility company put up rates by 18% in January and has just received permission to put them up again next year, I'm very glad I already have solar, so won't you join me? And now it's time for Short Shorts. What EV, a charging company specialising in infrastructure for medium and heavy-duty electric trucks, has opened its fourth electric truck charging depot. The new location in Bakersfield, California, is also the world's largest solar-powered truck charging depot. Nio, working alongside GAC, has signed a new partnership agreement on developing new battery charging and swapping technology. As part of the agreement, the two firms will allow each other's customers to use the other's charging and battery swapping stations. Alpitronic, manufacturer of the very popular Hypercharger range of DC fast charging stations, suffered a major fire at its warehouse facilities in Bolzano, Italy this week. The building was undergoing renovation work and thus was closed at the time of the fire. Nobody was hurt. The Vermont Legislature has passed a new bill requiring every utility in the state to source 100% of its electricity from renewable sources by 2035. But while the bill has wide support, the governor, who opposes it, is likely to veto the bill. Tesla announced a 4-day stop in production at its Gigafactory in Berlin, citing concerns over protests against its expansion plans at the facility. Local environmental groups have tried to disrupt production at the plant for months and had announced further protests for this week. A UK National Health Service hospital, namely the Alder Hey Children's Hospital in Liverpool, has officially started banning EVs from parking at its facility, stating concerns over fire risks. It claimed to have advice from Merseyside Fire and Rescue to do so until its car park sprinkler systems had been upgraded. The latter has not made official comment on the story. Lucid published its quarterly figures this week, showing that deliveries and revenue are up year over year. It made nearly $173 million in revenue, and net losses were down to $681 million from $780 million last year. Rivian also posted its quarterlies this week, exceeding Wall Street expectations on revenue with $1.2 billion. However, its losses were also larger than expected at $1.48 billion, or $1.48 adjusted. Rivian stock initially fell, but rallied shortly thereafter. Nikola also published its quarterlies this week, with both its production and revenue figures down year over year. However, it does appear to have rectified the fire risks of the Nikola Tre BEV trucks and is now reintroducing them to the market, as well as leaning in heavily to hydrogen fuel cell truck production. Kia was all about teasing new vehicles this week, releasing a new set of teaser images for its upcoming EV3 crossover. It's due to get revealed later this month during a special livestream on Kia's YouTube channel on May 23rd. In addition to the EV3 reveal, Kia also teased some images of its upcoming EV6 mid-cycle refresh this week. We've talked about it before on the channel, and while the tweaks are fairly minor on the outside, we can expect some important upgrades inside and underneath. As we previewed last week, the US federal government announced tweaks to the federal tax incentive program for EVs last Friday that means cars that contain Chinese source materials will no longer be eligible for incentives. Now, only 22 EV models are eligible for any tax credits. And off the back of that news, the US government has announced more than $100 million in subsidies for small and medium-sized automotive suppliers, with the goal of making it easier for said companies to make components for US market EVs. As part of its quarterly earnings call this week, Rivian confirmed that it plans to produce 155,000 R2 EVs per year following planned expansion of its Normal, Illinois production facility, an expansion partly funded by an $827 million incentive package from the state of Illinois. Nio has announced it plans to introduce a new EV brand to Europe called Firefly that will bring a sub-€30,000 EV to market. We have zero specifications or hints as to what those vehicles will be like, but given the name, ooh, shiny. Chinese brand Galaxy, owned by mega automaker Geely, has announced a new electric vehicle called the E5. Hot on the heels of the E8 sedan it unveiled back in November, the E5 has a similar set of dimensions to the Volkswagen ID.4 and is built on the Geely GEA platform. In many parts of the US, it's now pretty commonplace to see Rivian-built Amazon delivery vehicles doing the rounds. But now Amazon is beginning to transition its heavy-hauling fleet to electric as well. It's just announced its newest addition, nearly 50 Class 8 all-electric Volvo VNR big rigs. Tesla has reintroduced its Model Y long range in its US lineup, but confirmed that anyone who purchased a Model Y standard range in recent months actually has a long range with a software-locked battery that you'll eventually be able to unlock in the near future for an upgrade. Charging company Intelligent has opened the pre-order books for what it says is the world's first DC-to-DC solar-powered EV charging station. Called the TL-CEVT1, it can supply up to 12.5 kilowatts of DC fast charging using either CCS Type 1 or NEX when paired with appropriate solar panels. Daimler Trucks has just teased images of its first fully autonomous eCascadia Class 8 big rig. Developed in Portland, Oregon, the truck features Torque Robotics autonomous driving software and will eventually be capable of Level 4 autonomous operation. Tesla has been told by NHTSA to release a slew of documentation and data concerning its Autopilot FSD beta, Autopilot FSD supervised, and Autopilot software. To date, Tesla has been reluctant to release data on incidents and operation of its systems, and NHTSA appears to have had enough. US Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill are yet again trying to end the EV tax incentive program as set out in the US Inflation Reduction Act. Introduced by Senate Republican John Barrasso, the Elite Vehicles Act wants to stop all tax incentives, calling them a giveaway to wealthy people, despite the fact that there are now income limits for all EV tax incentives, and claiming that it's a giveaway to China, which, as we just covered, isn't true. There's a lot of negative things happening in the UK right now, and I'm not going to go into any of them here. But last quarter, something good did happen in the UK, namely it installed more EV charging stations than ever before. Now, about that general election, Tesla is beginning Tesla Semi deliveries to new corporate customers. Costco and Walmart, both of whom have taken deliveries at least of some Tesla Semis. And in addition, Tesla Semis have been spotted pulling Cisco and Martin Bauer trailers just after nearly a year of only being used by PepsiCo. Shenzhen, China, city of BYD, has now more charging stations for electric vehicles than it does gas stations, with 362 fast charging stations now in operation across the city. Sadly, we don't know how many gas pumps there are, but fast charging is a thing. Fast charging specialist FreeWire, whose charging stations combine battery storage with fast charging stations to enable deployment of fast charging infrastructure even when grid power levels aren't great, will be closing on June 24th unless it can secure additional funding. This is yet another devastating blow to the EV charging industry. Porsche's fastest Taycan variant, the Taycan Turbo GT, has a new job, the safety car for Formula E. The prestigious job has been held by several different EVs over the years, but the Taycan Turbo GT is the quickest to hold the position. Chevrolet has confirmed that the Equinox EV has received official EPA rating ahead of market launch. The front-wheel drive variant has a total range of 319 miles or 513 kilometres, while the all-wheel drive variant manages 285 miles or 458 kilometres. Similarly, the Fiat 500e has received its official US EPA ratings, with the 42 kWh variant managing 149 miles, 239 kilometres per charge, with all-season tyres reducing that range by 5.3%. Lectron has officially recalled its Vortex plug CCS Type 1 to NACS adapter, following a potential issue with a latching mechanism on some units. Tom Bologni's State of Charge has done a great video on this, so if you own one, you should go and watch his video. Toyota's new CEO has said that he plans for Toyota to reinvest some of its record profits from recent quarters into two main investment streams, EVs and AI software. Warning investors that its profits will be reduced towards EV and AI software, he said it was necessary for the company's future. Stellantis has announced a massive expansion in its fuel cell vehicle plans, with a goal of producing 100,000 fuel cell electric vehicles per year by 2030. Included in that goal is a new hydrogen fuel cell version of its popular Ram 1500 pickup truck. A new study by the University of Michigan shows that local governments in the state view EV charging provision as an expensive proposition that's low on their list of priorities. While more local governments see EV charging as necessary than in previous years, the report shows that there's a long way to go before EV charging is given the emphasis we need it to have. Polestar has announced a new lease deal that effectively gives customers up to $10,000 off the price of a new Polestar 2. This means that if you're well qualified, you can now get behind the wheel for less than $300 a month. And finally for the segment, a VinFast VF8 crash from 3 weeks ago that killed all 4 occupants of the vehicle now appears to be connected to a complaint received by NHTSA about steering issues. VinFast says it's aware of the accident and sends its sympathies to the family of the deceased. And those are your short shorts. There will be more next week. Our final 2 stories are next, but first, a quick word from one of today's video sponsors, Atmos Financial. Imagine a bank where your savings not only grow, but also go towards growing a greener world. That is exactly what Atmos Financial does for you. With Atmos, every dollar in your checking and savings account is funding projects that light up lives with solar energy rather than fossil fuels. Atmos is banking that builds a better tomorrow with every swipe of your card, because it's committed to investing 100% into clean, equitable and sustainable progress. With a 3.5% savings rate and a mobile app, your finances and the climate can go hand in hand. It charges no monthly fees, and there are no minimums keeping you awake at night. It offers accessible solar loans for those who want to give the fossil fuel industry the ultimate middle finger. So by joining Atmos using the link below, you're not only choosing a smarter way to bank, you're planting seeds for a healthier earth. And since every sign-up supports this channel so we can keep bringing you the content you love, what's not to enjoy? I'm a customer and I love knowing that I'm helping save money while ensuring that my savings doesn't end up funding the fossil fuel industry. And now it's time for those last 2 stories. We've said it before and we'll say it again for as long as it needs to be said. We need more affordable electric motorcycles on the market. And we'd wager US motorcycle brand Rivian would agree. It's already offering its Anthem for around $6,500 and has just announced a new model that's even more affordable, the $5,995 Rivian Outset. Designed with scrambler aesthetics, this commuter-friendly ride promises a top speed of around 75 miles per hour, 120 kilometers per hour, thanks to a motor that's capable of 14 kilowatts maximum and 7 kilowatts continuous. This places the Outset firmly into a market somewhere between a 125 and 250 in terms of power and torque, and matched with a 4.3 kilowatt-hour usable, removable battery, this could be great for many commuters. Frankly, I cannot wait to try one out. And finally, with the ongoing illegal occupation of Ukraine by Russia, there are some pretty big restrictions on what can and can't enter into Russia from elsewhere in the world. These sanctions include a prohibition on vehicles entering Russia from the EU, but that doesn't stop black market gangs from trying to import in-demand vehicles for rich oligarchs inside Russia. And this week, 2 Tesla Cybertrucks reportedly on their way to high-profile buyers in Russia were seized in Lithuania by customs agents at the border with Belarus. While Belarus isn't Russia, it's a country that's known to turn more than a blind eye to illegal imports to Russia, and its president is a vocal supporter of Vladimir Putin. I wonder if the original owners of said Cybertrucks are aware of where their vehicles ultimately ended up. And on that note, we are in fact done for today. As always, a massive thank you to the Electric Vehicle Association for sponsoring today's show. They've been advocating for EVs since 1967 and firmly believe that our future depends on us making the switch to clean, green electric cars today. The EVA can help you find someone near to you that can help you make that switch to electric. It can help you become an EV educator, and it can point you in the direction of monthly meetups for like-minded EV fans. Plus, if you do become a member, you'll gain access to a clean energy and EV loan program set up between the EVA and the Colorado Clean Energy Credit Union. So find out more by heading to myeva.org. And thanks to EnergySage. Follow the link below to find out how easy it can be to get verified, trustworthy solar experts helping you make the step towards energy self-sufficiency through solar on the roof of your home, joining a community solar project, or by getting a heat pump installed. And thanks to Atmos Financial. Bank better by following the link below. As usual, we would all love it if you'd consider supporting us from $1 a month on Patreon, or about $10.08 a year. There have been a bunch of people complaining of late that we are begging for money in this segment, but it is worth reminding all of you that we chose to operate a primarily viewer-supported model, as it allows us to keep editorial impartiality while simultaneously ensuring our output is free for everyone to consume. That said, without support from those who can, we won't be able to keep doing this. So if you already support, thank you. And if you don't support yet, please consider it. If everyone who watched supported us at $10.08 a year, we'd be able to do so much more. This week, for example, we chose to hire a vehicle we couldn't get on review from an automaker, and it wasn't cheap. And if Patreon isn't your thing, check out our swag store, where there's a new design of the month for May. It, along with the rest of our designs, is there for all of your swag-related needs. And of course, we'll be back next week as usual, with content going out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. To finish, remember that you're valid and loved, and you have a place in this world, even if lawmakers, pundits and other talking heads want you to not exist or want to restrict your rights. This year has seen so many rights eroded, and sometimes it can be hard to keep on keeping on. But know that your existence is resistance, and even if you're not affected by eroding rights, please remember to register to vote and get involved in your local political scene. Having your say, whatever that is part of the democratic process. So until next time, stay safe, regardless of your identity or who you love. Be an amazing ally, be kind, and please, for the sake of everyone's future, keep evolving.